30 kick over on CBS, because it kind of feels a little bit of like Auburn Ole Miss did last weekend, where anything could happen.
There's a lot of unknowns, and Chiz, we felt better last week when we watched the LSU offense, having TJ Finley come in. We now know a lot more about him. We know what the offense is going to be able to do with him at the quarterback position, but I also think that leads Kevin Steele, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, to be able to game plan a little bit more for what LSU wants to do with him at the quarterback spot. That's defending the quarterback run. That's defending the RPO stuff, the read option stuff. So I think Kevin Steele will have a great plan for them. But the thing that I'm worried about, that I know you also have a great concern about, is that LSU secondary. I thought the rush for LSU last week covered up some deficiencies in the secondary, made it appear like they had made some improvements. But back there, I think they're still really susceptible, and I'm anxious to see what I think is a weak point for Auburn, their receiving core, versus the weak point for LSU, their defensive secondary.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, CD, I think Bo Pelini's made a concerted effort to be very simple, right? Do what his guys can do. Let them get their cleats on the ground and play. Well, that's good, because that way you have a better chance of executing. But the downside is that you're in the same thing over and over and over again for a majority of the game. Now, where Auburn can take advantage of that is the secondary that I see in open space has not been very good tackling. There's still communication issues back there. I still see eye violations. What is that? That's where guys should be looking at their receiver. They look back to the ball. They lose the receivers. I've seen a lot of that going on. If they don't get that fixed between Anthony Schwartz, Eli Stove, Seth Williams, you could see some explosive plays on the second.
And PB, we talked earlier about rotations at the running back position. Today's a day I want to see Tank Bigsby get the ball early and often for this Auburn offense. I don't want to see splitting reps back there, splitting carries. LSU's defense.
Shivers, who got the start last week, and then he went up and
but Bigsby's the guy that gives you the physicality, the home run threat. I think that you look at LSU, what they did last week, they were very susceptible on the perimeter. The outside runs, outside the tackle, they gave up over 10 yards a carry. That's where South Carolina was having a lot of success. So I watch Auburn. I will watch for Auburn to do that a lot today against that LSU defense.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now, Kirby Smart, they are victorious 14-3 over the Kentucky Wildcats. Here he is, happening now at the podium. I thought they were going to keep Kirby on there, and then we could just talk as Kirby Smart. And
you want me to tell you what he's going to say?
No, seriously, what is he going to say?
What would you say after that game?
Well, first of all, every SEC win is a good win.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to celebrate this one for 24 hours and look forward to Florida.
No, honestly, there's going to be things that he's not going to be happy about. I think he's going to be not going to be happy about the offensive production, the lack of the ability to throw the ball down the field.
It actually sounded like he was pretty pleased with the way their offense played. When we heard him at halftime, I mean, that their execution at that point, I think they had only completed 5 passes. So
is that, you think, because he knows how limited they are?
I think so. I mean, I think that if he had his druthers, that's the right word, right?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good enough.
If he had his druthers, I think they would want to play very conservative on offense, the way that they have the last couple of years, running the football and not putting their defense in harm's way.
All right, let's not put words in his mouth. Let's see if we can actually hear from Coach Smart. Let's try it one more time.
But they maintained the ball and were able to have success there rushing it, and always tough to defend these guys. But our kids were resilient. Our kids responded. Tough environment to play in, and I'm really happy about the way we responded and came out and had the opening drive of the second half was big.
Hey, Kirby, regarding the offense today, obviously y'all were able to run the ball, very efficiently. Is there any carryover, you think, given what Florida does on offense, and probably needing to 14 points probably won't be enough to beat that team?
I would say the key is possessions and not turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm. So did you guys come in with a mindset to wanting to kind of, inflict your will on them with a physical ground game, or was it what they gave you think?
No, we came in with the mindset that we wanted to score every single possession we got the ball and do it by any means necessary. Whether that was run the ball, throw the ball, I mean, it was to take what they give you, and that's what we were doing.
Kirby, I'm trying to remember, I think y'all only had 3 offensive possessions in the first half. I think it was 4, excuse me.
4 with the short one at the end, yeah.
Right at the end. When you don't have as many, is it hard to tell in the first half if y'all are struggling or if y'all are doing what you're supposed to do and Kentucky has the ball too much. How would you categorize that? Can you?
Well, I definitely wouldn't say we're struggling. I mean, not at all. We basically got things down to, we had a third down maybe that James or somebody caught a ball, and I think he ended up like a foot short or a yard short, and we just, didn't convert. You got to get that first down, which he got one later in almost the same situation. He got the first down. And defensively, you got to get the ball back to the offense. I mean, they had a 19-play drive or something. It was like playing the triple option where you only get a certain number of possessions. But I wasn't disappointed in the effectiveness of the offense in the first half. They just didn't get many opportunities.
Next two questions will go to Jake Rowe, followed by Mike Griffith.
Hey, Kirby, with some of those struggles there at quarterback, was there any, thought with, and I know you talked about the possessions, but was there any thought about maybe trying to give the offense a little bit of a spark at some point, and DeJuan, JT, anybody like that?
No, there was no discussion about it because I personally didn't, a batted ball on a pass that he's got to get around a guy is not a real struggle. I know that you can say what happens once, shame on me, it happens twice, shame on you, but it's one of those things. He's got to wrap the ball around it. He's got to throw it away. He's got to get another opportunity. But he also did a lot of good things in the run game. He pulled the ball and scored with it. He put us in the right run plays. He handled motions. He handled the clock. He did some good things. He didn't get a chance to throw the ball an awful lot today because we were able to run the ball. So.
Yeah, Kirby, I think after the last game you said you wanted to get back to playing your brand of football. Is that, there was a lot of pounding the ball on the ground. Was that a reference to being able to run the ball effectively again?
I didn't say my brand, first of all. I said
Georgia's brand.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate, I think, because it's not about me. It's about the University of Georgia. And we want to be able to do whatever allows us a chance to be successful. And we're always going to take what the defense gives us. If they play certain defenses, we're going to be able to take shots. And if they can't stop us running the ball, then, we're going to run the ball. That's what you got to do. You got to be able to stop people from running the ball. And there's a lot of times today they couldn't do that.
Next two questions will go to Anthony Dasher, followed by Jillian McIntyre.
Coach, you touched on this to begin with today. Obviously, a ton of injuries, especially on the defensive side, losing someone like George. Julian goes down, Quay goes down. And I know it's always a next man up, philosophy, but when that many guys, key guys, keep going out, is it just kind of one thing you kind of shake your head what happens next, or kind of how are those guys right now?
I don't know how they are really, and you don't shake your head at it. That's what you have other players for. They give us 85 scholarships. You got to use those. You got to get the next guy up ready to go play. It's why we train those guys. They rep in practice. They practice every day in practice. They get their opportunity to play. I certainly don't know that all those guys were exactly ready for that kind of physicality, but they better get ready because they're going to be playing in the SEC the rest of the way.
Hey, Coach. With Zamir's first 100-yard game of his career, can you describe his performance and what this meant for Georgia's rushing attack returning to form?
Oh, I thought he ran with great toughness. So much pride in Zamir. He cares so much about his teammates. He does everything the right way. He's a leader. He never complains, never gripes about touches. He just runs really hard when he gets the ball. He plays really hard on special teams, and he's an ultimate team player, and couldn't happen to a better guy.
Next questions will go to Chip Towers, followed by Brandon Sudge.
Yeah, Coach, a couple of your key players didn't make the trip with you, as I understand. Can you just how big of a concern is George Pickett's situation based on your comments last week? It sounded like he might be able to good to go today. Do you have a setback, or how do you feel about it for this next week?
They're both just dinged up, and we're hopeful that both of them will get back. They practiced during the week, and we thought they'd be able to go, and just weren't able to. I mean, they weren't going to be effective to go out and play, and so we took other guys. I want them to be able to go, and they want to be able to go. They worked really hard. They got a lot of rehab and a lot of time spent getting ready, and we're hopeful to get them back next week.
Sorry. Kind of going back over to the running game, and especially early on when y'all had all those runs in the open. What type of things were you able to see or take advantage of early on in the run game?
I thought the backs ran hard, and we got a hat on a hat. If you block the right guy and you block them legally, then our backs are hard to tackle. I mean, it's tough when you got a 215, 220-pound back coming downhill at you, and they got blockers on everybody. So when you can do that successfully and put a good run plan together, allows you to have success. But we all know that in order to be the kind of team we want to be, an explosive team, we have to be able to run the ball for longer yardage runs, and we also have to be able to throw the ball effectively. We unfortunately didn't get much of a chance to do that today. I thought, Monken took a couple shots and he made a couple plays with them. He made a play to Darnell down the field and made a play to James down the field, and those are both things we worked hard on in the off week.
All right, you hear from Coach Kirby Smart. One of the things I love about—
Seemed like he was having fun.
Yeah, right. I was going to say one of the things I love hanging out with Chiz here and watching games on Saturday. We have like the coach's translation button. What did you make of his body language and everything from that one?
Well, I will say this, and it is not coach speak. Every win is a great win when it's a league win, and Kentucky is not a bad football team.
Physical.
They are, and they're not playing great football, but they're not a bad team, CD. But what I saw was a guy that's unhappy with the performance. And probably in a lot of ways. Number one, he's got several defensive linemen that have gone down, a DB that might have gone down. He's got that on his mind. He saw an offense right now that scored 14 points, but rightly so. He looks aggravated because he didn't get the amount of possessions that he wanted. Really only about 7 possessions the whole game. That's like playing an option team, right? Kentucky at some point went on a 19-play drive in there. You couldn't get the ball back to the offense. And then when the offense did have it, they're driving down there. They're running the ball at will. They're down there in the red zone getting ready to score. They throw a pick. Doesn't matter who the pick's on, but you turn the ball over 2 times with an interception when you're not getting the ball back as an offense anyway. So I'm just feeling like there's a lot of frustration with the win. Happy that it was 14-3, but I think coming off of the Alabama 17-point loss, having a week off, he expected his team to play better. That's what I saw.
Especially physically. To be pushed around the way they were in that second quarter, I think that was probably frustrating for him. And to be able to not finish drives when you have opportunities to do so. Those are the things to me. And also not being able to get off the field. I think you've coached far more defensive snaps than I ever have. But I got to imagine that's a frustrating thing for a defensive coordinator to not be able to get third down stops, to not be able to get the ball back to your offense.
Last quick question here as we start spinning it forward to next week. George Pickens, we don't know his status. Quay Walker banged up. Jordan Davis was in a sling. You had Lewisine hurt with the ankle. Which one of those is the biggest issue going into next week against Florida?
I think it's Jordan Davis. I mean, he's the centerpiece of that defense, the way that they play that 3-4 front, a guy that takes up space in the middle, a guy that allows linebackers to be able to run free without guys working up to the second level on them. That's the guy, to me, that I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, and offensively, George Pickens. I mean, if you don't have that threat in the game, look what he single-handedly did to Baylor last year in the Sugar Bowl, right? So you lose those 2 guys. Those are staples that are high productive guys on both